Chapter 7. The Call of Nature. Echoes rang in my ears as I tore off the virtual reality headset like a deep-dive scuba helmet. Congratulations, you have died. Starter village complete. My stomach did a slow roll like someone had unplugged reality and forgotten to plug the next one in. My awareness of where and when I was flooded back in, sitting in my home office, a midday sun illuminating the room, the smell of stale coffee. I sat there for a moment, blinking. My heart was still hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs, convinced I was currently crushed under several thousand tons of mountain. I patted my chest, solid, uncrushed. Then my body caught up with my brain, and it had a very urgent notification of its own. I'd been in the game for about 4 hours. "Oh God," I muttered. I scrambled out of the chair, my knees popped like bubble wrap, a cruel reminder that while my avatar could fight off a mountain-sized golem, my real-world body was strictly middle management material. I did a stiff-legged waddle run down the hallway, thanking the universe that Kurt wasn't around to witness the sheer lack of grace involved. I made it to the bathroom with seconds to spare. The relief was bordering on a spiritual experience. While I washed my hands, I stared at myself in the mirror. I looked normal, a bit disheveled, hair sticking up where the headset strap had been, but normal. It felt wrong. Minutes ago, I was holding a glowing heart shard. I was bargaining with an ancient stone tyrant. I felt the dust in my throat, the cold bite of the mine, the weight of that golem I had pushed. To go back and help the villagers. I dried my hands and walked back to the study, moving a little slower. My computer monitor was asleep. I tapped the mouse and the desktop flickered to life. Spreadsheets, emails, a half-finished invoice I was supposed to send out this morning. Real life. I sank back into my chair, but I didn't look at the work. I looked at the headset sitting on the desk. It was just plastic and sensors, but looking at it, I could still feel the phantom weight of the Golem King's offer. He'd offered me a legion of stone soldiers. If I'd said yes, if I just let him turn me into whatever heart-hearted general he wanted, I would have been unstoppable. I could have marched that army out of the mine and crushed the army threatening the village. I would have been a god in that game. I would have been powerful enough to find Kurt, to help Kurt. I rubbed my face. But I would have been the villain, I whispered to the empty room. And I wouldn't have saved Warwick or Tob. I would have condemned them. It was strange. I knew the characters in the game were just game characters, NPCs. I knew they were just lines of code and scripted responses. I knew I was in there to help Kurt, not try to help those computer characters. But remembering the little kid dragging that basket or screams of pain from the medical tents, it didn't feel like code. I had to make a decision, who I was, who I wanted to be in that game. Do I abandon my morals to help Kurt? Or do I try and set an example of who I want him to be? I looked at the VR headset again, longing to put it back on. "Nope," I said, forcing my hand away from it. I had real work to do, deadlines. I had clients who were probably going to send passive-aggressive follow-ups by tomorrow morning if I didn't send their invoices. As much as I wanted to dive back in, I couldn't do it while worrying about work. If I were going to help Kurt, if I was going to survive in that world, I needed to be focused. I grabbed my computer mouse and awoke the monitor. "Work first," I muttered, opening the half-finished invoice. "Be a responsible adult, then you can go play hero." But I made a deal with myself right there. I would grind through this work today. I'd finish the invoices, answer the emails, and clear the decks. And tomorrow I will be taking holidays. Call it a mental health sabbatical. I needed to go back in. Not just to play. I needed to understand. The choices in there, the consequences, they were heavy. They mattered. And if they mattered to me after only playing for 4 hours, I couldn't imagine what they did to someone who had been in there for months or years. I stood up and walked out of my study. The house was quiet. It was just past midday, but Kurt's door was firmly shut. I hesitated, then knocked softly. No answer. I turned the handle and pushed the door open. I hadn't been in Kurt's room for some time. The room was a cave.
Blackout curtains were drawn tight, letting in only a sliver of light that cut across the chaos. Clothes were piled on the floor like distinct geographical formations. Empty energy drink cans and snack wrappers cluttered the desk. And there, tangled in a duvet on the mattress, was Kurt. He was fast asleep, one arm hanging off the side of the bed. He looked young like this, not the sullen, silent teenager who grunted at me over breakfast, but the kid he used to be. He was sleeping at midday. Usually this would annoy me. My internal dad logic would start firing off about wasted potential and the need for fresh air. Then my eyes adjusted to the gloom, and I saw the wall above his desk. I stepped closer, careful not to kick a soda can. He'd turned the wall of his bedroom into a war room. A large blackboard was screwed into the plaster, covered with frantic chalk scribbles. Next to it, dozens of sheets of paper were taped together to form a massive, sprawling map. I leaned in. It was the game world. Near the center, a town named Starter Village, instinctively knowing that's where my character was. Red marker pens slashed outward across the paper. Circles, arrows, crosses. There were notes scrawled in the margins of the map cutouts. South Gate, critical. Supply lines broken. Stronghold integrity, 12%. Where I saw a map, Kurt saw a battlefield. I looked at the blackboard. In big, hurried letters, he had written, "Time running out. Can't hold the wall alone." He wasn't just being lazy, sleeping in until midday. He was recovering. He was fighting a war of attrition, trying to keep that percentage from hitting 0. I looked down at him for a long moment. He was losing it. All of it. Everything he had worked for in-game. "I get it now. I get why you disappear in there," I said, my voice a whisper. "It's not just a game, is it?" I backed out of the room, gripping the door handle. "Sleep well, kid. I'm coming to find you." I pulled the door closed, leaving him to his dreams, and headed back to my study.